So Nissan has just unveiled the 2024 Nissan GT-R. It's the same car they unveiled 17 years ago, and this is just another in the long lineup of facelifts throughout these years. And I want to talk about this design because I think this is one of the most significant facelifts so far for the GT-R. We're gonna talk about the front and the rear, both the regular and the Nismo version, compare it to the previous generation, and see what small details did they change in the front and the rear. I think those small details actually make a huge difference in this design, in this car. I think it makes it look a lot more modern, and that's of course the idea with facelift. So Nissan is bringing back the T-Spec here as well for 2024, and this comes with bodywork from the Track Edition and the carbon ceramic brakes used in the Nismo GT-R, while retaining the base model's 565 horsepower twin turbo V6. It's got wider fenders and got gold painted raised 20-inch forged Nismo wheels, which I think look absolutely insanely good with this green color that we have on this specific T-Spec. The 600 horsepower Nismo is upgraded with new larger rear wing and a lot of new carbon fiber all over the bodywork that sort of extends the surface of the body itself. It's a very interesting implementation of these additional pieces, specifically in the rear end. I'm gonna show you that when I compare the old Nismo to this new 2024 one. It's a pretty cool change that they did, and how they really integrated the carbon fiber pieces into the body itself. I think, as I said, the 2024 facelift is by far, I think, to me, it feels like the biggest change so far in the Nismo GT-R lineup. So here we have, let's just jump in here and let's analyze what we got in this new GT-R from the Tokyo Auto Show. Up here we have the 2021, I believe this is. What I like about the old one, I think in this case, looking at it from a front view, I love the color. The color looks great. It looks a little dialed down, maybe a little less saturation in the 2024 model. But I think, honestly, I don't know, let me know what you think. I think I prefer the 2021 front end to the 2024, and the reason being several reasons. First of all, look at this line that goes into from the hood into the grille. This line right here. This actually connects really nicely into a key graphic feature in the front end, which is the front end grille. Not only that, it also connects to this Nissan V shape that we have in a lot of Nissan models, which kind of, you know, brings it in and ties it in together with the rest of the lineup. Because just looking at the GT-R like this, it doesn't really look like any other Nissan. So having this detail, I think it's an important piece that in the new one they sort of ditched, and you still have the same line that we have up here in the hood. I feel like they didn't want to replace the hood, and they didn't want to replace the side fender, the top of the side fenders. Everything new happens from this line, the hood line, and this line down here. Everything underneath this line is new in the 2024 model. The hood stays the same, which means that we still have the same line flow that we have in the previous generation or pre-facelift. So this line is still intact, but now it doesn't seem to have any connection to the grille here, because it ends right here. It doesn't end in this corner. To me, makes it look a little less refined than the previous model, since we had this line going right into the corner beautifully here. And I also love this thin edge that we have around the blacked out grille. I also like this bumper itself is blacked out and creating this big gaping hole in the front end. Here we have more of a traditional looking bumper. It doesn't look bad at all. I really like this line and how it kind of fades into this fender right here. Very beautifully done. And also, this is also beautiful. I think this is what we're leaning towards now. We're leaning towards more complex, small graphic details in the front end, but it doesn't have nowhere near the same flow and grace as the previous model. I don't know if you can call it graceful, but I'm talking about line flow here. This line, yes, it goes into these fins here. I think the designers felt that we're gonna have this line now crashing right into this line, so we want to have some connection to the grille with this line, and I think that's why they added these fins to sort of have some connection to the line that goes into the hood up here. Still a cool looking design. I think it makes it look more modern, but also this detail with the light down here and comparing that to this design, which actually has a really nice flow to it, because we can connect these two graphic features by putting out these lines, and you also have this LED going right here, continuing here, and then making a turn in this very edge right here, and then coming back in the lower part. So the connection between these two graphic features in the previous generation is, in my opinion, a lot better than the connection between this headlight and this graphic feature in the lower part of the front end. All right, so let's have a look at the rear view. This is the T-Spec, both the top and the bottom. First of all, love this color. I love it in combination with these raised gold wheels. I think this is the color combination that I would probably go with if I was buying the previous generation T-Spec. I'm not sure if this, I think this color is coming back now, or they're continuing that specific purple color in the 2024 model. But in this case, looking at the rear end, this is where I think the new one really stepped it up and made it look a whole lot better than the old. Because here, what I loved about the GTR since the early days, since the beginning of this design, is this edge, this thick edge that we have, sort of as a very solid statement that this is framing the rear end, and of course the massive taillights, and the if you want to have a definition of bazooka tailpipes, you have them right here in the GTR. I love these big tailpipes. But small details that completely, I think, transforms this design in the new one is that it makes it look a whole lot lighter in this rear end. The reason being, you see this massive surface here. There's nothing going on in this surface. And then we have these, the license plate framing goes in this direction with these angles pointing outwards, and kind of creates a bit of maybe weak looking rear end, a bit of heavy and weak at the same time, because this looks out of balance. And then we have this big surface with these pieces of surfaces being carved out in the bottom, and then we have the diffuser going in this direction, so we have the opposite direction to the license plate framing. Looking at the new one, we still have this gorgeous solid line or edge border in the very end, and then we have a new line that goes right here. And this makes the whole car, whole rear end, looks a whole lot lighter than it did in the previous 2021 pre-facelift. We also have a change in the license plate framing. It now goes inwards and creating more of a stanced look. These lines help stance the rear end when they're pointing outwards instead of pointing this way, going up and outwards, now going down and out. I think that's an additional small detail that helps this design. And then we have a completely new diffuser, as you can see right here, more maybe geometric looking, but I still like this better than we have up here with a different silver color as well, which kind of makes it stick out even more. But look at this, how beautiful this is. We have this solid line right here, and then we have all this gorgeous surfacing in different thicknesses, kind of waving and meeting this line all at the same space. And I think it looks so much better than having this, which looks almost like a kit car styling. Well, this is a way more grown-up styling in my opinion, and it creates a nice looking modern rear end for the GTR. This looks like a 2024 model to me, just based on these changes in these lines. And then you also have a new design for the rear wing. It looks like it sits a little, this angle feels a little steeper than it was in the previous generation with this line, so it's slimmer and feels stretched out, which I think looks really good as well. All right, now jumping in to the Nismo. So here we have the pre-facelift Nismo up here, and down here we have the new Nismo. I think this, on the other hand, we still have the V shape in the front end of the previous pre-facelift Nismo, which is gone here in this new 2024 model. But I still think that this works better than it does right here. I think this looks like everything is supposed to be there in comparison to the front end, which I talked about here. I feel like this bumper is not supposed to be here. It doesn't feel integrated in the design, but it kind of does in the Nismo version. We also have the same kind of treatment of the new graphics in the lower part, which I think looks better than these. These look like almost aftermarket LEDs that someone just stuck on there. This looks like they have been designed carefully to kind of suit the overall design. This reminds me a little bit of the new M2 treatment, where you have a lot of angles, 90-degree angles and geometric shapes with carbon fiber. It looks pretty cool. I think it works better on the GTR than it does on the M2. And I also like that this lower part got a lot clearer definition. In the pre-facelift, we have this curvature here that I'm not sure exactly what it wants to do. If you want to be a curvature, or do you want to be a straight line, or what's going on here. But in the new one, you can see they defined it more. So we have a line, a angle, and then a straight line, and then angle and line again, which I think builds up this character in the front end better than having this base with this curvature at the very bottom of the front end of the pre-facelift Nismo. Now, what's really interesting is the rear end of the new Nismo. I really love what they did with this carbon fiber package. Here in the previous pre-facelift Nismo, there's no carbon fiber going up here on the sides. We still have a pretty solid rear end, and I do like this treatment better than we have in the pre-facelift GTR, where you have these dents that we talked about. But here, same treatment here as I feel like it's the M2 treatment, where you just put a lot of 90-degree angles, kind of boxy design and styling in the rear end, but it works for the GTR because the GTR overall is a pretty boxy design. And just look how far this carbon fiber piece goes up into this border that we talked about, making the car itself, the surfacing of the side of the car here, extend into this carbon fiber piece. I think this is a really unique and interesting approach of how you can take carbon fiber pieces, and this is also supposed to help with the aerodynamics, and I can definitely see that with the air flowing past, and this being the last touch point for the air before it gets sent off behind the car. You also have a new 10% larger wing in the back right here, with some more angles, angled forward now instead of angled backwards like we have in the pre-facelift one. Looks really cool. I think this Nismo upgrade is a fantastic upgrade. I wasn't really a fan of the previous generation. I think it looked a little messy in my opinion. Here they cleaned it up by having these angles and geometric shapes in specifically the carbon fiber pieces of the new GTR. Some say that they should definitely create a brand new GTR. It's time. It's been 17 years, but I think the GTR is still selling really well, and it's a fantastic car. You do have the dual clutch gearbox, so everything feels up to date, and specifically now as well when we have this new facelift for 2024.